do you even watch the Mets? Like, I want to ask these people, do you watch the Mets? Do you see on any given day that anytime Jacob deGrom hits that rubber and pitches his heart out, like I've said before, every time it never fails, the Mets will score no runs or they might score 1 run, but the point is they never give him offensive help. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dillard, bringing you guys another podcast. This is the Barnyard podcast number 5. I'm here with my co-host again, Clemente. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Just, dealing with the Rangers being poverty franchise.
Yeah, I know it hurts. We'll be talking about the no-hitter, but the first thing that we're going to talk about is Odor. And I actually want you to go ahead and hit this topic in the nail, because I know you have a lot of strong feelings about Odor being a Rangers fan. So kind of give me your intake on it, if the Yankees ended up picking him up.
Yeah, the Yankees ended up trading for him, which was surprising that any team would be interested in him. But I mean, it's a pretty low risk type of deal since the Rangers ate all 27 million of his salary. So I can see why the Yankees would do that. But Odor, man, where do I even start, man? Like, he's just an inconsistent player at putting at best. I was doing some stat searching on Fangraphs, and from like 2017 to 2019, during those 3 seasons, Odor had like one of the worst WRC pluses among major leagues at around like 76, and like he was like 10th worst. And like here's a list of guys who like had a worse WRC plus among qualified hitters during that stretch. Alcides Escobar, who's known for his defense, never his hitting. Adam Engel, Billy Hamilton, another like speedster that doesn't really hit. Chris Davis, who
Oh,
arguably
man.
has the worst contract in professional sports. Austin Hedges, who's not really known for hitting either. Orlando Arcia, another guy who's not really known for hitting. Jared Dyson, more of a base runner. Delino DeShields, more of a base runner. Martin Maldonado, a defensive first type of catcher. So like Rene Odor, those are the only players that he had a better WRC plus from that 3 season stretch, and like it's just not good, man. And like I think Odor is probably like one of the best examples when it comes to like valuing guys who hits a lot of home runs, but like he's not valuable at the same time, because I think Odor had like a few 30 home run seasons, but like when you look at everything else when it comes to his WRC plus, his WAR, his batting average, even his batting averages weren't that good either. I think Odor's probably like one of the most fascinating players when it comes to like just evaluating like what type of player he is, because on one hand you see him hitting like a shit ton of home runs, but on the other hand his impact numbers are just not good at all, and that's what led. And like a big reason that led to the Rangers moving on from him finally is the fact that he only wanted to play second base from what I saw from the reports, and like he wasn't really that open to playing like any other position. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's already a logjam there with like Nick Solak and like other guys that they wanted to move ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Odor, I mean, he's inconsistent at best, one of the worst qualified hitters at worst.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I remember when the Yankees ended up getting him and I heard the news and such, I was like, what in the world are they doing? Like at an initial glance, like I was trying to figure out every possible scenario that I could come up with for why they were doing this. Because here's the thing. They ended up getting Gio Urshela from the Blue Jays, and nobody really thought of anything of it. But now Gio Urshela is like a 120 to 130 WRC plus hitter when he was well below average, well below league average in WRC plus. And they figured out that when he was in the minor leagues with the Scranton Rail Riders, that really the only issue that Gio was having was he wasn't following through with his swing. And that one simple fix is why he's significantly better than what he was before when he was with the Blue Jays, he was with the Indians, and he might have been with another team, but I know he was definitely with the Blue Jays and the Indians. But, and we already knew that Gio could play defense, and, that supports it by especially outs above average, and the DRS and UZR are starting to come around for him too, starting to support his case a lot more. But people already knew he could play defense, but we didn't know he could hit. And I guess the point I'm making is that if the Yankees can turn around somebody like Urshela, who was a below league average player in terms of basically his offensive numbers and WRC plus and such, I don't think it would be too hard for them to do the same for Odor, because at least with Odor, he has the power. You know, like you said, he's had some seasons where he's had 30 plus home runs. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking as a Yankee fan that Cashman went out and got Odor because they know that he's a lefty. He can hit for power. He's had a few seasons that he can hit over 30 home runs. He's shown that potential. And he's wanting to use that potential because he knows that he can use that to further advance his abilities because of the short porch. Because everybody knows about the 310, feet short porch at Yankee Stadium. He's a lefty power. It would be perfect. It's suited just for Odor. That's what I'm thinking it's for. But initially, when I was like going through all the thought processes and just trying to figure it out, because I didn't figure that out and I didn't really think about that until later on. But just trying to look at like the defensive substitutions, and people are like, oh, well, DJ will play first for now since Luke Voigt is out and all that. And I'm like, I don't want to place a guy like DJ, who's elite at second base, at a position that he's not as great at. I'm not saying DJ's not good at first, but you don't put a player at another position where he's elite at the other one. You know what I mean? Like you don't do that. Like I understand like Glaber's he's been atrocious, like to say it nicely, at shortstop, just not good. Don't ever have to worry about Urshela, but like there's just a lot of possibilities I was like thinking about. I was like, why are we getting Odor? But now now that I've seen his at bats and I've seen how he's worked, and yes, it's a small sample size. It's only been a few games. But the good thing about Odor is he's shown a lot of hard hit contact. And as you know, hard hits are very good. Barreling the baseball is good. Usually it results in more hits if you hit a ball straight and it's a line drive opposed to a grounder or a fly ball. Most people probably know that anyways, but line drives usually, typically, not always, because things happen, it's baseball. Sometimes you can get unlucky, sometimes you get lucky, it just really depends. But line drives usually always result in base hits, and he's making a lot of hard contact. And that really makes me excited because I'm just sitting here thinking of all the possibilities. I'm not expecting Odor to come out and be like the everyday player. I'm expecting him just to be a bench player, a definitely suitable bench player that could hit. I don't know how many home runs he's going to hit because I just don't know how much they're expecting him to play. But I think he has a lot of potential to use that short porch to his advantage with the power that he has. And just with the Yankees' recent track record with especially Gio Urshela and even Luke Voigt. We knew Luke Voigt was good from St. Louis, but we never knew how good he was until he came to New York and just blew up on the scene. So, that's ended up being two hitters that the Yankees ended up progressing into better than what they were. And, if it ends up happening for Odor, I won't even be surprised at this point because it seems like Cashman just has a reputation. The Yankees have a reputation of just developing hitters into really good hitters. And then, Odor's first game against the Rays, I was telling you about it. We were talking about it because I was like, I might be late on the podcast because we went to the extra innings. And, 4-4, who gets the hit and ends up giving the Yankees the lead? Freaking Odor. And it's just like, welcome to the Yankees, man. So, we'll see how it goes from there. But realistically, I don't know what to expect out of him. I'm figuring the reason why Odor's on this team is because they know that he can hit for power. He's a lefty, and he can really utilize the short porch to his advantage. But other than that, I think some other things that we should talk about, considering the league, I actually want to talk about just some individual player performances because I know usually with podcasts we've talked about like the really big topics, the baseballs being deadened and the All-Star game moving and stuff, which we do have something to talk about with Trevor Bauer. But I kind of want to talk about more about just individual performances and just who's been really striking my attention across the league. I know that you had some things that you wanted to talk about, so I'll go ahead and let you talk about what's really excited you about this season so far and individual players that have really been eye-popping.
Well, when it comes to individual players, the first person that comes to mind is probably Lance Lynn with the White Sox. I mean, he's already collected 0.7 BWAR. And I think he just had like a 9-inning complete game shutout with 11 strikeouts against the Royals. And 2 starts in, and he looks as good as he was last season, which makes me wonder like why more teams didn't come knocking down the Rangers' door last year during the trade deadline, as why they didn't want to get him. But like nonetheless, it's their loss. It's the White Sox game. But Lance Lynn, he really reinvented himself with the Rangers. I think he only uses his fastball now exclusively. And he's dropped like all the other pitches because when he was with Minnesota and New York, as you can remember, he was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I
I,
mean, it's just another example of like another guy like reinventing himself, and like now he's probably having some of his best seasons like later on in his career.
Yeah, I agree. You could probably tell as a Yankee fan, it hurts me that he's performing as well as he is. It does hurt. Same with him and Sonny Gray too. It's like, oh my god, man. And people can't use the Larry Rothschild excuse because Larry Rothschild is killing it with the Padres. And I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute, but Joe Musgrove just had a no hitter, so he must be doing pretty fine with them over in the Padres system. But yeah, definitely with Lance Lynn, he was really good. I mean, people are gonna be like, "It's the Royals, who cares?" But the Royals have some sneaky good hitters, to be honest with you. Like the Royals, their pitching is bad, but like I said this in a past podcast with you, and I don't expect the Royals to make a playoff push or anything. But their offense is sneaky good. Like I think that their offense can beat some really good teams on any given day, as long as the pitching doesn't, hit the bed, shit the bed or whatnot. Because the pitching very well can do that, and the Royals' pitching in general is just not great. It's not very good at all. But to kind of put more emphasis on the game, Lance Lynn pitched a complete game shutout, only allowed 5 hits, didn't walk anybody, struck out 111 pitches. What's really striking to me is that out of 111 pitches, he threw 79 strikes. So Lance Lynn is not scared of pounding the strike zone. He was attacking hitter, hitter after hitter after hitter. He's not afraid to attack the zone. He did a really good job with mixing his pitches. He's just, like you said, since he joined the Rangers, he's really reinvented himself, and he's been really good. He's been super good. Like it's kind of crazy how much he's reinvented himself and just the scale that he's put himself on. Because I can tell you with the Yankees, he wasn't outright terrible and before that, but he's never been to where he is at now. And, I'm really happy for the man because he's always showed that potential of being one of the better starting pitchers in the league. And then, like I said, you talk about his fastball. He mixed his fastball, his cutter, and sinker well, and he's not afraid to pound the strike zone. So Lance Lynn, very good. The one player that I really, really want to talk about first, because there's several on the list, but this man is making me feel like I am playing MLB The Show because it doesn't seem realistic. Him and somebody else are making me feel like it's a video game. It doesn't feel like it's real life. The first one is Akil Baddoo. I don't even know where to start. I mean, the first thing that I ended up putting on this script, because, I want to put everything out there and not forget anything, is that during the 4-game run that he had, it was 1 game against the Indians and 3 games against the Twins. And this man had 5 hits and 11 plate appearances, but the 5 hits were all super important. He had 1 grand slam. His first home run and his first hit of his career was on a first pitch. So that in itself is just insanity. He also recorded his first career walk-off, his first career triple, and also threw out Andrelton Simmons on a beautiful throw. And it's just like, you can't make that up. You can't have a much better 4 games than that. Like, it's almost impossible, it seems. Like, it just seems like a fairy tale. Even the Tigers broadcasters were like, and the fairy tale continues. Like, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy how good this guy has been. And, in that 4-game stretch, I get it's a small sample size, but it's like, a 338 WRC plus. I mean, that's nuts. That's crazy. And, he just hit a home run last night. Like, he tanked a home run last night against the Astros. I don't think it's just a 4-time thing. I think this kid is genuinely the real deal. Like, he is good. He has all the qualities that you want in a major league hitter. And apparently he can play some good defense because of the defensive gem where he threw out Simmons. It didn't look like Simmons was going to be anywhere close to out. But, Baddoo ended up proving everybody wrong with the beautiful throw that he had to second base to cut off Simmons. And just in general, like, this kid is the real deal. I'm very excited for the future. He's honestly making me, like, I didn't, I'm a big fan about, not just being a Yankee fan, because obviously I'm a Yankee fan. I support them, every day of the week. But I also enjoy watching individual players, and I appreciate the game, not just for being a fan of an individual team, but I also support the game as a whole. And this man is seriously making me want to buy a jersey. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, this man is just, he's so good. He's so fun to watch. I don't remember the last time I've ever turned on a Tigers broadcast and been really excited to watch the team. And he's the reason why I'm, like, even remotely excited to watch them. And that speaks volumes. Not only him, but the other guy that is posting video game numbers, is Yermon Mercedes from the White Sox, another guy that just kind of came out of nowhere, just bursted on the scene with no idea who he even was. Um, the first series against the Angels, he sets an MLB record with 8 straight hits to start off the rookie season. Who does that? Like, how? Like, as a rookie, that's nuts. Like, even if Mike Trout, even as good as Mike Trout is, even if Mike Trout came out and was like, let me just get 8 hits in a row, that would still be pretty absurd. Even for his caliber, like 8 hits for anyone is just nuts. Like, that's not something that happens every day. It's very rare. And, on Thursday night also just not ignoring the fact that Mercedes had, 8 for 8 to start off the season with a home run against the Angels. But on last Thursday night, when the White Sox were playing the Royals, I actually believe, if I'm not mistaken, the same game this happened was the game that Lance Lynn ended up throwing the complete game shutout. I could be wrong. But anyways, on Thursday against the Royals, he tanked a 485-foot homer. I was like, God, like, I even said it. I was like, could you imagine how far that ball would have went if he hit that at Coors Field? That thing would have been like, that thing probably would have left the park. Like, it actually would have left the park and probably hit someone's windshield or something. Like, it would have been long gone. But, yeah, just Akil Baddoo and Yermon Mercedes, really good for baseball. I love hearing stories about people coming out of just nowhere, especially with Baddoo, because Baddoo hasn't even played anything above single A, and now he's hitting at a major league level and killing it. It's just like, you can't make that up. You can't predict that these things happen. They just happen, And that's why I think it's not just a fluke at this point. It is a small sample size. I'm not saying he's the best hitter of all time, because it's not true. But he's been very, very good, and I like a lot of his upside already, and he's already impressing me. And that takes a lot, because I'm a very big person on sample sizes, and I don't like to make conclusions over a week or 2 weeks or not. That's why, always arguing with people about sample sizes and being like, okay, you can't just replace one player that's better than the other after one game. That makes no sense. That just makes no sense whatsoever. It just never makes sense to me that people always believe in that. It's like people don't even acknowledge that sample sizes exist for a reason, and that you shouldn't be judging a player off of 1 or 2 games or even just a few weeks. Like, you got to have, months and months and months down the line to be able to make that conclusion. But, yeah, just in short, Baddoo and Mercedes have been really, really good. Since I've talked about a few players, I'll also let you kind of talk about a few more players that, have been really interesting, or anything else in the league that's really interested you.
Well, I wanted to talk about the Trevor Bauer story, since we talked about it last time, where MLB was going to start investigating, baseballs. And I think Trevor Bauer was like the guy people thought of the most whenever that came out. And I guess it's manifesting, because now I think he's had I don't know how many of his baseballs have been taken to investigate yet, but I know there's been several. So that's just something else I want to talk about. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, Dylan. What do you think of that situation?
So, yeah, I did write quite a bit of information on this. Back in late March, MLB issued the memo to all 30 teams to not use any foreign substances on their baseballs for the 2020 season. Intent is to prevent movement, increase in velocity, and spin rate, which we already knew that. We talked about a lot of spin rate last time. They found that multiple baseballs were being looked at from Bauer's start in Oakland. Baseballs had visible markings and were sticky. And this is the thing that's interesting to me, is that even though they enforced this policy, at the same time they said that even if the baseballs contain foreign substances, even if they know they have a definitive answer that they were tampered with, MLB isn't sure if they can prove Bauer was responsible for directly putting it on there. And that's where I really am just finding an issue with this whole rule. And it's like, how are you going to be able to prove that certain pitchers did it? And what type of punishments are you willing to give these players at the end of the day? Because after listening to Ken Rosenthal kind of explain the whole Bauer process with all the steps that it takes just to be able to, not necessarily suspend a player, but just be able to prove a point and discipline them, all the steps that Ken was talking about, it almost just seems pointless to even put this rule in effect in the first place. Not because, we don't want pitchers to have an increased advantage with the spin rate, the velocity, and the movement. and give batters an even bigger disadvantage. But it just seems like there's too many steps to prove that someone did it. And it's like, okay, well, if we find out the baseballs had visible markings, how in the world are we going to prove that Bauer directly did it, or the Dodgers didn't directly do it? They gave him, like, who did it? That's the underlying question, is who is the ones responsible for putting the foreign substances on there? Because at the end of the day, we do know Bauer is a big fan of it. That's why his spin rate over the years has increased dramatically. And that's why a lot of people are just like, I don't know if he's the same pitcher without the substance. Because of the increase in spin rate and movement and velocity that he's had, he was able to win NL Cy Young. And he had his best season of his career, small sample size or not, 60-game season or not. Bauer was incredible. But there's no denying the fact that because of the substances, his spin rate, his movement, and his velocity have all increased dramatically. In turn, that's why he's been much better than what he has. But that's kind of the problem that I'm running into. I want to know what you have a problem with, because it seems like there's too many steps to be able to prove someone did it. And it's like, okay, well, we found out that these baseballs have substances on them. We proved that they were tampered with in a lab because they sent them to labs. But how are we going to be able to prove that it was Bauer? And if we can't prove it, who's going to be responsible? Because if you enforce the rule, how can you not just punish anybody if you found out that baseballs were tampered with? It honestly just makes no sense to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to like what are the possible issues of how they're handling this. I mean, you can't really go back and like figure out who exactly did it, since so many pitchers touch the same balls, NH. But yeah, it feels like it's more about showing teams like, hey, don't do this. Then it's actually about like reinforcing the rules and punishing players when it comes to like this whole investigating baseballs if they feel like that it's been tampered with. So yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to like what the potential issues could be with that, since you can't really go back and specify like who's doing what exactly. So yeah, I mean, you said everything that I had to say about the topic.
Alrighty. So moving on, because I mean, I don't really have much more to talk about. I don't even think that they've gotten results back from the lab yet, actually, even though it's been since the Oakland start, which was, quite a while ago now, because Oakland's played several teams since then. They've played the Astros since they played the Dodgers, and now they've started playing the Diamondbacks. So who knows what's going to happen with that. But I do want to mention this, and I feel like I talk about it all the time on Twitter. I always have to argue with someone named first name, last name, bunch of random numbers, shitty opinions all the time, and I'm really getting sick of arguing about it with people that genuinely believe this. But first off, I'm just going to say, can the Mets do something for Jacob deGrom? Like, I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing this man absolutely dealing, and the Mets can't even score one run. And against the Marlins, and it's like, I get the Marlins don't get me wrong, their starting rotation has a lot of upside. Like, their rotation right now, they have a bright future. But have you seen the Marlins bullpen? It's horrendous. It's bad. That is one of the biggest downsides outside of the Marlins offense is their bullpen. It's not good. It's really, really bad, and that's why they lose a lot of games. That's why they'll continue to lose a lot of games, and they won't make it to the postseason, and they won't be as competitive as they could be with their starting rotation, because the bullpen can't limit runs. They blow too many leads, and also the offense can't score more than 1 or 2 runs. They're like the Rays, but they don't have a bullpen like the Rays, and they end up blowing leads left and right. But I'm just getting sick and tired of Jacob deGrom just going out there and dealing, and the Mets not giving him any run support. And it's like you went out and got, you have Lindor. I think Conforto is really underrated. I like Pete Alonso. I like Jeff McNeil. There are a lot of people on this team that can make an impact. And it seems like every time that Jacob deGrom hits the rubber, he takes them out, he pitches his heart out for, 6, 7, 8 innings, whatever it be, because he's always going to give you consistent outings pretty much every time. It's very rare that he doesn't. The Mets just cannot score. And it's only him. Like, every time, it's like they can only score 0 to 1 runs, and most of the time it seems like they don't score anything through 9 innings. And it's just it's super embarrassing. I just honestly feel like it's insulting to Jacob, because he's so good. He is the best pitcher in the league without a doubt. It's not Garrett Cole, not Max Scherzer, it's nobody. It is Jacob deGrom. That is 110% the facts. That's the truth. Anyone who argues otherwise is kidding themselves. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in the league. I'm sure that you wouldn't doubt that either. And I'm saying this as a Yankee fan, so I love Garrett Cole, and I'm willing to admit that because it's the truth. But I'm honestly just getting so sick and tired of first name, last name, bunch of numbers in their name, arguing with me because they think pitching wins matter. And now Jacob deGrom is 0-1, and they think that that's the definitive answer behind why Jacob deGrom sucks. And I'm like, do you see his ERA? I'm pretty sure his ERA is like a 0. I think it's like 0.45 right now. It's at least under 0.60. And the guy has no wins, one loss, and it comes back to one of the arguments that I always give on Twitter, is that I think it was in 2018 where he had an ERA under 2. I think his FIP was right around that area too. He was a 9-win player as a pitcher, which is insane. That's just unheard of. And he had a 10-9 record. And people are going to try and tell me that that means anything. Like, that's a definitive answer for why Jacob deGrom sucks. Do you even watch the Mets? Like, I want to ask these people, do you watch the Mets? Do you see on any given day that anytime Jacob deGrom hits that rubber and pitches his heart out, like I've said before, every time, it never fails, the Mets will score no runs, or they might score 1 run, but the point is they never give him offensive help. Ever. It never fails. It's so incredibly frustrating. It's just like, I always put on Twitter these hashtags. I'm always putting free Jacob deGrom. It seems like after every start, because this man needs to be saved. I'm tired of his career being wasted. It's just, it's insulting. It sucks. Mets fans are even getting sick and tired of it. I'm not even a Mets fan, and I'm getting sick and tired of the Mets just not doing anything. They'll do that. They'll go out, and when Jacob deGrom is pitching his heart out, they won't provide any run support. But then the next day, they'll have any other pitcher in the rotation, and they'll end up providing him with 4, 5, 6 runs. And I don't get it. It just makes no sense to me. It drives me up the wall. The only thing that I can say that drives me up the wall more than people who think pitching wins matter and who think Jacob deGrom sucks and the Mets are wasting his career on any given day, the only thing that makes me more mad is the Angels basically also limiting and hindering Trout's career. And at least with the Angels now, they've bolstered their they bolstered their bullpen. They have some good pieces. Ohtani is healthy. The offense is clicking with the Angels right now, and their rotation really hasn't been outright terrible. Small sample size, but there's a lot of hope. The Angels look really good as a team, but I'm not getting that same from deGrom. I'm not getting that same run support for deGrom, and it drives me up the wall. I don't know. Like, what is your opinion on the matter?
I mean, yeah, I think more and more people are starting to realize how useless of a stat wins and losses are when it comes to pitchers. And I think deGrom's probably the best example of that because, like you say, he's a Hall of Fame pitcher, and I think he doesn't have, or his record doesn't reflect that. And yeah, I also wonder like how much of the fact that the Mets don't support him runs has to do with the fact that the team knows that it's deGrom out there, so all we need to do is like only score 1-2 runs, and we'll pretty much win like 9 times out of 10. So I wonder how much of the human element of that comes to play with him like not having any run support historically when he's with the Mets. But yeah, wins-loss record is probably like the most useless stat in all of baseball. Thankfully, more and more people are starting to see that, and the people you argue with are slowly like becoming the minority when it comes to that.
Yeah, I agree completely. With the time that we have left, though, I think it would be a good time to talk about one more topic. I know that you are probably dreading it at this point because you're a Ranger fan, but we can't ignore the fact that Joe Musgrove went out and threw a no-hitter. I'm going to go ahead and let you have the floor.
Well, Joe Musgrove went out for a no-hitter last Friday, I think, and what's there to say, man? The Rangers just aren't good. The offense is awful. The only respectable hitters that they have that are above average are probably like Joey Gallo and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. But besides that, man, their entire roster is filled with like guys who probably wouldn't be starting for most like good teams, and like the Rangers just suck, bro. It's just it was bad. I consider it karma for being for letting like 100% full capacity on opening day. That's how I consider it. Like, you know what, we kind of deserve this. It was a bad move to do to begin with, and it was clearly motivated by finances. But yeah, Joe Musgrove, he's been great. I think I wonder how Astros fans feel knowing that they traded him away. I mean, they got Garrett Cole back from that trade, so I'm sure that doesn't hurt that badly. But man, Joe Musgrove, man, he's really blossomed in San Diego and with Pittsburgh the last couple seasons.
Yeah, I actually, before I was going to talk about my thoughts and opinions on the game, I wanted to ask you if it was just a rare coincidence or not that the only World Series has been played and won by another team not named the Rangers in the new ballpark, and also the first no hitter of the year is in the Rangers' new ballpark. How do you feel about that? Does that just, I can't imagine that makes you feel very good about the team or about the circumstances.
Nah, I mean, by the seventh inning, I was kind of rooting for it because no hitters are like historic. But I think another thing that's funny is that the Rangers broadcast really tried the best to like jinx it. And it was pretty obvious that they were trying to like jinx it as well by bringing it up every other minute, and like it didn't work out. But yeah, the Rangers ballpark at least it's getting like national attention since they're like the newest ballpark now. And you know what? I think it's all right. I mean, I know some fans complained about them using turf and them having like a dome roof now, but like people have to remember during the summers in Texas, it's bad, man. It's like 100+ degrees on a daily basis for like 3 consecutive months. So yeah, it's them having AC is probably benefits them in the long run, especially when it comes to like attracting free agents and telling them like, hey, you don't have to like pitch out in this heat anymore, so we can just have this roof over you now with AC and everything.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think the thing that I was going to say about Musgrove is I think the really cool thing about this whole situation is that the Padres have never had a no hitter in their career. Joe Musgrove, who they just got, ends up throwing the first no hitter for them, and even cooler with the cherry on top to wrap it all up. Joe Musgrove was a Padres fan growing up, and he grew up, liking the Padres with his father and his family. And like I said, he grew up in the San Diego area. And it's just like, you can't make things up like that. That's why I think baseball is just the most beautiful sport in the world. Because I just feel like nothing like this ever happens in other sports as consistently as it does in this sport. Somebody who ends up throwing a no-hitter, just joined the team not too long ago, is from San Diego and was a Padres fan growing up. Like, that's just awesome to me. And like you said, Joe Musgrove has really blossomed. It's just another case of the Pirates' player development system just is less than ideal, as I would put it. Just they failed to, progressively develop so many players. Like Austin Meadows doing well with the Rays, Tyler Glasnow. Don't have to tell you about that. Like Glasnow's he's been so good. He's been very good. You also have Garrett Cole. Like what happened with Garrett Cole? And then, you also have Musgrove. And I know there's probably some other players that I'm missing out, but that's a significant chunk of talent that the Pirates have just let go because they weren't able to successfully develop them in the way that they wanted to. And I'm so happy for Joe Musgrove because I was one of the minority people among a lot of Yankee fans who was really interested in Joe Musgrove. A lot of people were like, I don't get the love for Musgrove. Like, it wasn't even just Yankee fans in general. Like, there was a lot of people that were, like, really skeptical about Joe Musgrove. They were like, I don't understand the support for Joe Musgrove. And it's like, people never saw the upside that he had. They never take, and I feel like people never take into consideration that as soon as somebody gets out of the Pirates organization, it seems like they blossom, like, overnight. And even then, even though he struggled. He had his fair share of struggles with Pittsburgh. He still showed a lot of upside, and he had some good outings, and he had some good, stretches of time where he was really good. And he was pretty much the only pride and joy that the Pittsburgh Pirates had. But, yeah, Joe Musgrove, I'm just more happy than anything, even if he's not a Yankee, which I'm sad about. I mean, we at least got Jameson Taillon, and, we also got Corey Kluber. But, like, I'm just happy for Joe Musgrove just proving everybody wrong because there were so many people that were doubting the Padres whenever they made the decision to go and pursue him. They were doubting his ability. They were like, oh, he did nothing in Pittsburgh productively, even though he had some good stretches of time, because people don't pay attention to the Pirates. I mean, I don't necessarily blame people if they don't want to go watch the Pirates, but at the same time, you can't ignore it. Like Joe Musgrove he's always had the potential. It's always been whether or not he could tap into that potential. And as a Yankee fan, I know I keep saying that a lot, but it seems incredibly ironic that a lot of Yankee fans really complain about Larry Rothschild, our old pitching coach, before Matt Blake from the Cleveland Indians came along. They complained that he was just a terrible pitching coach. He had no idea what he was doing. And then you just look at the Padres, and now they have Darvish, they have Snell, they have Musgrove, and Musgrove went out and threw a no-hitter. It's incredibly ironic to me. So that's about it on that topic. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about real quick?
No, man, I think I'm good. Just glad to be back, and hopefully you get your channel back, man.
Yeah, that's a disaster on its own. Don't really want to talk about it right now. Just for the people who don't know what he's talking about, I had a Yankee channel, and it got struck 3 times by somebody, basically bot accounts right now, and they ended up complaining I stole content from a Law and Order video out of everything. Which is nowhere near in my baseball videos. Why would I have a Law and Order compilation videos anywhere in baseball videos? It makes no sense to me. It's beyond me. And plus, the video doesn't even exist on YouTube, which is the funny part. So, yeah, I'm on an uphill battle with YouTube right now, but I'm remaining positive that everything will be okay in the end. But even if it doesn't, it's going to take a whole lot more than 2 bot accounts being jealous or people who hate me trying to take me down. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But if you guys did enjoy the podcast, definitely make sure you subscribe, click the bell notification so you don't miss any uploads of mine. And also make sure that you comment down below and let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. Leave a like. And if you want to, definitely spread the channel around. It helps as much as possible. Word of mouth means a lot to me. And outside of that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See you guys later.